We've all heard about stereotypes that boomers are resistant to change, Gen X is cynical, millennials are entitled, or that Gen Z has no attention span. But what if these labels are doing more harm than good? I'm joined by two exceptional guests today. Dr. Aman Jain is a researcher whose work has been published in leading journals exploring intergenerational learning, gamification, and electronic engagement. And Smita is an ACTC and PCC coach who works with leaders and teams to work towards a shared objective. Now, together, we're going to move beyond the myths and into what actually works when it comes to the multi generational workplace. Smita, Dr. Aman, thank you for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yamini. And welcome all for this webinar. I have with me Dr. Aman today. I know Aman almost now, maybe 7 years, 6, 7 years. We've been, in touch for some leadership interventions for his previous organization, and that's how I know Aman. Aman he's a doctor, so he's a PhD, and he's doing a lot of research paper, and specifically on the topic that we are talking today. So you will get some insights from him from the research point of view, and I will bring in the coaching, element in our conversation. So Aman, do you want to say hi, and then we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Nice to be a part of this webinar. Like Smita said, we have known each other, not just from a business context, but also for conversations. In fact, the number of conversations we would have had beyond business would be more, which could be around, like there's the 3 Ws. How's work going? What is working? What is not working? So the work angle, the worker angle, and the workplace angle, which forms pretty much our ecosystem largely, right? And it is the essence of those conversations how this topic came up. So happy to be a part of this conversation here, and let's see how we can learn from each other.
Absolutely. Also, for the participants, we will be posting on the chat some questions for you to reflect along with us. And we would want you to, put your responses on chat. We'll keep some 10 minutes time towards the end of the, our time today for Q&A. Feel free to, share any questions, any comments. Also, towards the end of the session today, we'll share a link from Dr. Aman. He has a website link where his research papers are there. So we will share that as resource as well for you. Yeah, Aman, let's get started. All right. I have been talking to organizations, understanding some of their pain points and challenges, and seeing where do they think the need of coaching, and off and on this topic of multi-generational issues is pointed, and that's where that is where actually the birth of this topic for our webinar today came up. When I was discussing with them, saying, I commonly hear this, like, what's your take? And we said, okay, let's talk about it. Let's really bring it and see, how, what are the research studies say about that. So to start with, Aman, the first question really here for us to deep dive is, studies suggest that employees across generations, they often value, similar things, right? Like we know respect, purpose, autonomy. All of this is not anything to do with generations. It is part of being human. So what's your take on how should leaders really avoid stereotyping while still, acknowledging the different needs of people?
Sure. The question in its essence, as well as the topic at large, is very close to my heart. Multiple research studies that I carried out as doctoral scholar at IIM Kashipur were around different generations at workspace. And when you're asking this question, it's pretty much, resonating with various conversations that I had with leaders then as a part of the study. Uh, what is and therefore in one of my papers, in case anyone interested can actually deep dive, which is around intergenerational learning at a modern IT workplace. We actually noticed that the typical stereotyping of a generation is a certain way is pretty strong in many organizations. And that stereotyping has happened as a result of multiple conditional factors, you know, conditional factors in terms of how are we born and brought up, what is the kind of culture we've been living in, what is the kind of culture we are working in, how are our rights and wrongs defined, or for that matter, maybe they are not defined, but they are responded to. And because of the environmental factors, the way the environment is responding to your statements, to your takes or stances, you start formulating what is right and wrong. And I feel, and something that is evidenced in my study as well, that therefore that leads to a lot of stereotyping. A typical stereotype that we would hear that young generation and synonymously used as Gen Zs are very entitled. They actually want everything on the table. Or, senior folks, maybe 40, 50 plus. It really depends on who's talking about it. If it's a Gen Z, then Gen Z will feel anybody beyond 30 is a senior folk. And if it is you and me, then we will feel anybody above 45, 50 is a senior folk. So the definition also can vary. And they would say senior folks are always resistant to anything new. AI is simplifying our life, but they feel it is ruining our life. So, point, there are these strong stereotypes driven as a result of our own understanding and definitions of right and wrong. And over a period of time, we are now conditioned to accept them as true. And I feel, like the topic said, what are the myths? I feel this is a strong myth. In fact, I feel stereotyping is a shortcut. Accepting individuality basis what an individual's preference is, valuing their preference with a rationale that they may have, is where leadership lies in. How I can value the other person's understanding, reasoning around a certain topic or a certain situation, and how we can accept it in the way it comes to us. If not accept or agree, can I acknowledge it in the way it comes to us, makes a lot of difference. So when you're talking about how do leaders continue to function despite generational differences, if we accept it to be that way, I continue to feel it is more around individual traits. What are my preferences? And I can have different traits. As leaders, how can we ensure that it's really not generational differences, but individual preferences that I value or acknowledge and operate in sync with those patterns or preferences that may be, to build a space which is more cohesive around complementing each other's capabilities, is where the true leadership and essence of maturity lies. So the more we embrace it, we accept each other, and we synchronize things, because at workplace, honestly, there's no time to think, who has what generational preferences. There's no time. But if we simplify and look at it from an individual angle, I think it is definitely going to be a lot more useful and cohesive to the purpose. Over to you.
Thank you. So stereotyping, while you're calling that as a shortcut, it is really coming in the way of leadership, is what I sense with what you're saying. And when
True.
I'm seeing that as coming in the way, then therefore, what kind of a competence in me as a leader is required to take care of the stereotyping that is, like a very organic, or we just slip into it maybe without knowing, because that's really easy just to say, oh, that is a Gen Z, oh, that is a millennial, oh, that is a boomer. So we very,
Yeah.
it's a shortcut, like you say. So what competency in us as leaders do you think can help us to take care of stereotyping?
Sure, sure. Now, let's look at a workplace example, and I will then answer your question around what competencies can really come handy. See, today there are multiple mechanisms in a workplace that ensures BCP is there, business continuity process is there. It can be an organic practice or it can be a procedural introduction into the system.
Mm.
But let's just do a, reverse back 15 years ago. We still had baby boomers. We still had Gen X. We still had Gen Ys who were working together. The technological invasion was lesser and hence they spoke to each other. Let's say you are my senior at work, both in terms of age or in terms of position, right? I have a problem and I don't know how to crack it. I wouldn't mind coming to you and talking to you about it. And whether BCP is there or not, whether there is a KT system in place or not, you would still be okay to share your experience or your perspective around the challenge at hand. Somewhere there is this, one way structure in the notion, meaning a senior has to teach a junior, which is also a type of stereotype, right? A senior teaching a junior, or A leading to B only. There have been established structures and we are following that. But in organizations today, the organization that I'm presently part of, organizations that I've operated or worked in the last two stints, we've had reverse mentoring programs. Seniors are teaching from their experience on how to handle conflict situations. And juniors are teaching how can you quickly get onto Slack and just start, bombarding everyone with what's happening in life, what's happening with respect to the project. Seniors are teaching how to look at data and come up with insights. Juniors are really good at using AI. The most recent entrant into our lives. Juniors are able to use AI very quickly and give us the data analysis. It's not going to take 15 days now. So, point, earlier there were organic mechanisms to handle any kind of intergenerational transactions or conversations. Today, with advent of technology and with the amount of invasion it has in each one of our lives, conversations have come down. Interactions with the digital ecosystem has exponentially increased. So my reliability on technology is much higher than other human beings around me. This is the truth of today, and let us accept it, right? This being the case, now hopping to your question, if this is the scenario we all are operating in, what are the competencies that can really come handy? How can I still not look at generational shifts as major, decision making factors or contributors to decision, to that of, okay, it is a preference, how do I navigate through this? I would say openness. It all starts there. Can I just hear you? I used to work with this firm called as Manford. I'm sure there are many HR folks here, and you would have heard of Manford as well. And the founder then, Anand David, had a very beautiful quote that he would often tell in that 72 hours intervention. Listen to understand with no burden to agree or disagree. And for me, The first time I heard that, it was a very powerful thing. It continues to be powerful even today. Point is, it is telling me, boss, can you just be open to what is coming your way? You don't have to agree, you don't have to accept, but can you be open to what's coming your way? Because when we are open, we are somewhere, sequentially unlocking aspects like flexibility, simplification. We are, breaking the rigidity of our views, the rights and wrongs that I spoke about some time ago in some which way. So point number one, or competency one, wouldn't want to call it competency because this is like a value as well, but openness plays a very important role. Second, what is the real purpose? Right? Being purposive is very important, especially in the fast-paced workspace that we are a part of. There's hardly any time to think. So the moment I know that this is my purpose, then I have to stay focused on that and look at all factors as contributing factors to make choices. Third one could be around maybe how to build alignment. A lot of time, the generational shifts that we are talking about can be addressed through simple conversations. We will talk about one or two models that you use and I use in different forms and shapes in our experiences. But yeah, those are the two words that comes to my mind right now.
Yeah. And when you said listen to understand, in coaching, we always say, right, like listen to understand and not to respond. Like that's really not the agenda of from a coaching lens as well. So
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you
yeah.
for sharing that quote, Aman. And when you're talking again about being open, I'm just thinking of that as a coaching mindset. So for leaders, in order to be really breaking that stereotyping, what does it need for me is to be curious,
Yes,
and in order to build that, really the trust with the people that I work with, curiosity, I think, is at the core of any conversation, operating from the space of a coaching mindset, or also I'm relating it to trust and safety in workplace. So
absolutely. Yeah.
recently, Aman, I was having this conversation with a business leader of an organization, and he was talking about his experience with a Gen Z, and he said that the Gen Z was like really showing a constant need for feedback, and only when this leader asked the Gen Z as to how do you prefer feedback. And the Gen Z said that, I normally would like to the feedback to be given in written so that later I can really, reflect on it. And he said, I wanted to just experiment it. And I went ahead and asked the same question to a boomer, and I got a response which was, just tell me on my face. So he said, normally, and like, if I would not have really, if I would have operated from that stereo mindset, then I would have just expected the opposite, because I'm categorizing Gen Z in a particular way. I'm categorizing the boomers in a particular way. So the constant question that I am having from, since the time I had this conversation with him is, as leaders, what is that internal work that we need to do? Like, what is the constant story I tell myself about this person, right? And am I really relying on the reality versus my assumptions? What can I do to drop those assumptions?
It's an interesting one, right? And each one of us may respond very differently to the same question because perspective is qualitative. So I'm sure what I share may be accepted, but equally we may have different opinions coming in as well. I think that one factor that comes into picture is acceptability of how different people are. There can be individual differences. Something as simple as, engagement.
Mm.
In organizations, engagement is a critical thing. Engagement defines is one person involved, is one person interested. Engagement also establishes how quick, how fast can a person operate, a project can be turned around. A few of us are very happy when there are back and forth conversations on Slack happening. And a few of us are happy when we are having a deep, life based conversations over a cup of coffee. And a few of us just want some action, right? So, that being the case, what really makes a difference is, as a leader, can I accept the other person with whatever are their individual traits in the way they come to us, and can I synchronize, customize my ability to sync in with them in a way that it is more cohesive by nature. While I know it is difficult, especially for leaders, because each one of us are responsible for hundreds and thousands of lives. We,
Yeah.
on an average, have about 40, 50, 60 interactions every day in different forms and shapes. Now, how will I sit and engage based on what the individual preference is? Well, that's the magic. The more and more we put in effort to respond in a cohesive way, in a coherent way, it just sinks in with our DNA, you know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Thank you. And for the audience participants, I've put a question for you to share as to what are the myths you are aware of related to the multi-generational issues. What are you coming across? Please do share with us here on the chat. We invite you to share your responses here on the chat. Moving on, Aman. So we know that, right? Like there is this pressure of time, and therefore the shortcuts. However, we are ourselves coming in the way when we really, label. I'm just trying to figure out, and a question for you here is, how does focusing on work style instead of generational label will help the team really resolve the friction and improve that cohesiveness that you were talking about, improve that collaboration that we really would want for the systems to have?
Hmm. Hmm. Very relevant question. And I'm sure many other practitioners here who handle dynamic workplaces will have similar challenge to talk about.
Yeah.
Uh, I use a very simple F2F model, which is friction to flow. Uh, and it goes this way. The first step is, uh, you know, don't term it as a friction. Like, figure what the friction factor is. Don't see it as a friction factor, but in a way that it is acceptable.
Mm.
For example, a person is extremely slow. So instead of calling it, why are you so slow? We could probably revisit the same context as, oh, I actually see that we have two
Yeah.
different speeds or two different paces. It
Yes.
is interesting. Can I know what are you paying attention to? Right?
Yeah.
Having done that, the second step, which in some which we have already shared in the first one, is being curious of why is that friction even happening?
Mm.
And that could be, okay, I'm sure that there's a different pace, so there is a reason. What are you focusing on? Or is there something else that you're observing that I'm not? If yes, then can you share what is that you're looking at? What is that you're paying attention to? And the third step, which is building the flow, is creating a new norm where we are actually getting into a win-win proposition. Hey, I know we both are operating out of different paces, and for obvious reasons, your preference and my preference, what you are seeing, what I am observing, are two different things. But what can we do to work together and build the flow? So that's my friction to flow model, or friction to flow thought process that I often keep in my mind. Um, in the past, I used to deliver a workshop, again, something that Manford was known for, which is called as possibility search attitude, PSA. There will be challenges, which in this case is some form of friction. How do we look at embracing growth mindset to still find possibilities to make things happen? And for a leader, not just leader, in fact, I would say managers, because more than leaders, it is for managers who experience challenge handling on a regular basis. If they pick up a modality like this, something as simple as friction to flow that I mentioned, it will just ease their way of looking at a situation and then synchronizing it. And that being the case, going back to your question, labeling is really not the focus. We are looking at what is the challenge. The focus shifts from who to what.
Yeah, it's attacking the identity, right? It worsens. It's like fuel to the fire when we make it, Gen Z or somebody
Yeah,
like that. So,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just got, passionate to just put this thing about, and I'm so resonating with what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what happens, therefore, is at workplaces, when we start, I spoke about this organic synchronization of different generations.
Mm.
Today, we are talking about flipped classrooms in academic setup. We are talking about reverse mentoring. In one of the organizations, one of the world's largest brewery companies where I worked, we had reverse mentoring sessions. Every newcomer to the organization from the campus had to mentor two senior folks. In my present organization, I have junior employees, less than 3 years experience, who are mentoring senior employees on a couple of skills. So that is there. It is also, and therefore, if we notice this, if there is a certain kind of stereotyping on how Gen Zs are, how Gen X is, how Gen Ys are, then obviously that label is not sinking in here, right? Because we are showing that even the younger generation is capable enough to do mentoring, capable enough to have deep conversations. Today, I had one employee who walks in and tells, "Hey, AJ," all younger employees call me AJ here. They do not want to call me Aman. They do not want to call me Doc. They do not want to call me Sir. They're like, "We'll call you AJ." He comes in and he says, "AJ, I want to have one conversation with you, which is around this, polarity of life." I said, "Okay, let's meet after lunch." And he was just ready after lunch. He's like, "Are you done with the lunch? Can we sit?" He wants to have that conversation immediately. I said, "Yeah, yeah, please come." And he wants to talk. This is an intern, still in college, doing his bachelor's program. He wants to talk about how his friends, he's not even telling people from different generation, his friends feel relationships should be a 1 or a 0. Either you are in a relationship or you are not. There is nothing called as work in progress. And this young chap is telling me, "AJ, how is this even possible? Life is so, work in progress. How can relationships not be in work in progress? I don't understand." And he wants to debate that life is not bipolar by nature. Decisions in life are not bipolar by nature. Imagine a 20-year-old wants to have this conversation with me in my cabin and is questioning a premise that his friends around him are, trying to prescribe. He doesn't want to accept it. I have not had a conversation like this in my 20 years of HR career with anybody. So, point that I'm trying to tell that, yeah, we can label people in a way we want to, but it may not be true. So if we tell that Gen Zs are too fast in their decision, which is a pattern that I hear people talking, and yeah, we can see essence of it in different ways. Isn't this experience of this meeting that I'm talking about is somewhere contradicting that point of view, right? Gen Z
It's
wants
a
to talk about Okay, why should life be bipolar? Why should it be one or zero?
So it's a very qualitative discussion that, the person has come to you to discuss.
Yeah, yeah.
And this really makes me to think, right? Like the moment we kind of label things and put things into boxes, the concept and in coaching and most of participants here as coaches, the polarity thinking which we approach and we know that there is so much of benefit in the and approach, right? Like there, it's not really either and or. I mean, it's really like can we see things as interdependent, and when we can see things interdependent outside, then why not with this generational issues which we are really making it come in our way, to use it. I mean, you're talking about they want things fast and so speed, and then I'm seeing quality leaks. How do you really say that it's not this or that, but how do you really see it in its in that cusp of things? Amazing. um, there was also some research, Aman, around this. That is there anything else? I'm vaguely remembering that you wanted to share something, some research around this. Is there
Yeah,
any?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the research studies that I did, which was around millennials
Mm,
largely, and how they learn, what are their learning preferences, how would they want to be taught. So, I actually deep dived into Cobb's learning cycle. A few of us may know this, which is around experiential learning, and andragogy, Knowles andragogy, which is adult learning methodology. We actually used these two models and came up with what is a way which can be interesting for the learners to allow them to learn the way they want. So, some kind of autonomy, some kind of preference based approach, so that they can learn in the way they want, customize the modalities the way they want, and consume the content the way they want. So, we actually spoke about multiple strategies that can be used to make adult learning more effective. Where again, while the paper revolved around millennials, but one of my insights that I picked up on is it's just not from a millennial angle. It is also the fact that each one of us can consume content in different way. And it is important that we as HRs, we as L&D practitioners, we as coaches, we as mentors take cognizance of that and respond to that accordingly to build better acceptability of whatever is being spoken about.
mm. And this is really about, when you keep saying these terms like acceptability and cohesiveness, and I see these skills that we, in our training program, in the work that we do with organizations as team coaches. um, Not that people are not aware, not that they're not aware of the importance of being open in a conversation or being cognizant of the difference of opinion, but still, knowing that theoretically versus when it is the actual application that has to happen, we still see that there are cases where things don't work. So any practical and the CHRO lens, right? Like you are from the for the organization and wearing the CHRO hat. What is your observation in organizations? What is it that is happening in reality?
Well, it really depends on the organization's maturity level. How is the organization spanning out in itself? The more aware as an organization as a unit, the more aware they are, the better are the systems, procedures, practices, and modalities of driving the organization from all the angles, everything from hire to retire. The way an HR, aka the organization is responding to this will define how it is being taken, right? So, what I observe in organizations today, the organization that I lead HR for, and other organizations where I mentor many other HR folks, is it is not really in the who factor, it is in the how factor. How have we designed the experiences such that it takes care of all possible modalities? It could be generational differences. It could be as simple as what are each of these generations' mindsets. Mindsets on how they absorb, how they respond, how they react, how they propagate, any of that. So the moment we shift from who to how and build practices, systems, policies which are in sync with the prevalent market scenario but relevant to the audience, which is the who. So the more you know effort we put into making how holistic and useful, the better would be the outcome. What I also see as a critical factor to designing anything is we often try to design policies, for example, based on what the market benchmarking is, or based on what the top 50 reports of every financial year or a calendar year talk about. Right? There was a year when every report said that people have to be involved in MOOCs, massive online open courses. So all big organizations allocated X amount of budget purely for Coursera, Udemy, Future Learn, and whatnot MOOCs of the world. And within 3 years, a lot changed. Now, question adoption of these MOOCs, relevance of these MOOCs, and therefore synchronization with the agendas. Agenda could be learning and development agenda. It could be engagement agenda. It could be performance management agenda. How cohesive were these initiatives from an organization standpoint to the audience that we were trying to cater to was also equally critical. So the design aspect plays a very important role in an organization, and paying attention to that is very, very important. Yes, we will have who's. Today we are talking in this webinar, Smita, we are talking about baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. Just to push a hoopla here, jumla here, what about Gen Alpha, which is in making? What
Yeah.
about Gen Beta, which is going to land up very soon? What about Gen Gamma, who we cannot even imagine how that generation is going to be? So, point, who is a variable. One generation goes, another will join in. And that's the truth of any organizational context, right? The how part has to be so cohesive, and constantly we have to have, that corrective mode or improvisation mode. It is constantly evolving in sync with the audience that we have. I know it was a small question, but I tried using a couple of examples to share it in a little more detail.
Yeah, no, absolutely very relevant, right? Like we spoke about the myths, Aman. We're talking about, what kind of a mindset readiness does it require for leaders when it is, there are differences, and as coaches come leaders, it is all about becoming aware of these differences and getting prepared to manage. And when you talk about, the how, and I'm just thinking that I can, as a leader, I can take a pressure on myself saying that, oh my God, now I have 10 people in the team. And, it's a combination of the various generations. When I have to think of giving feedback to, one generation versus another generation. So for me to be aware of how should I give that feedback in a way which is not really, people do not become defensive about it, but take it to their stride and then work on it to thrive. So so
Right.
so that's the whole thing, right? And I keep, I'm now when I look at the mindset part of it, it and you said earlier openness, and we spoke about curiosity. This is all defining for us the coaching mindset, by the ICF definition, so to say. So any other point here, for us as leaders come coaches, to work on our mindsets, to work on that how part of it?
Sure, sure. Uh, I'm sure you must have heard, experienced different uh, people-based models, right? And there are few things which are very, very elementary to any of us, be it workspace or life at large. Autonomy, affiliation, sense of achievement, again, being purposive, or for that matter, affiliation. When what we design, the how aspect, is in sync with these aspects of human beings, it makes it a lot more powerful because acceptability from an employee further increases to these aspects. There can be other facets as well. For example, Erwan's model speaks about purpose, intent, alignment, and all three of them should keep triangulating in an organizational context, which becomes extremely critical, right? We will have organizational purposes, and on one side, while we have to ensure employees are kept engaged, kept happy, their purposes of life, of career are being met, their managers are having cohesive relationships with them, their grievances are addressed in less than 6 minutes from the time they raise the concern. All of that is going to be there. How we are responding to these requirements in a way that they feel valued, they feel heard, they feel understood plays a very important role. And angles or elements of autonomy tries to service that. Elements of building mastery in the ecosystem helps to service that. Services service those expectations of an employee. And affiliation also sinks in. So the more and more we focus on building or designing cohesive workspaces where trust plays an important role, where we can call it caring, we can call it supportive, encouraging, motivating, plays an important role, where complementing each other, irrespective of our generational differences, and being able to still deliver the larger purpose at hand are a few other things that can come very, very handy. And all of these are critical to building mindset in an organization, or build mindset in a set of people who are trying to drive the larger purpose of the organization.
Great. Thank you. Maybe I'm just looking at the time, Aman, and wanting to segue into the third part of our conversation today, which is about the
Sure.
modern realities, right? And we know with AI, post-pandemic, the working styles have and all of that has changed for us. Like there are companies which are hybrid. There are companies who are again coming back to 5 days, work from office. So all of those, along with AI, where everything is quick, so I'm really not dependent on a human to, answer for me, but I know I have something greater and larger, and I don't differentiate there that, which generation AI is answering. I just any which ways rely on the AI giving me the answer. So, what is your take on the modern realities when we are, navigating our way through these multiple generations?
Sure. Sure. I'll try and give a short one, considering we are left with 15 minutes, and I'm sure we could learn from the audience as well. When it comes to modern realities, truth being told, AI has invaded our lives. The way we look at things today with AI, on my device, and AI slowly being integrated into anything and everything of my life, um, it is something that we will have to accept and embrace. My response on modern realities in two parts. First one, uh, as a HR practitioner, a lot of repetitive tasks are becoming AI driven. If I take talent acquisition, which is the first step in an organization's HR journey, today the JDs, I just have to give 10 lines about what I feel about a role, and the JD is ready for you in less than 10 seconds. Since the JD is ready, the competency framework will come out in another 10 seconds. Competencies are ready, then behaviors that we should look for at work or in an interview conversation is ready in another 10 seconds. And all of this gets pushed into the HRMS. So whoever is interviewing has to just look for it and start scoring. So something that took 10, 15 days to come together. I remember 15 years ago, my boss would say, Aman, build a competency framework for the supply chain team and present it to me in 15 days. Is that the kind of time I have today in my present scope of things? Answer is no. We did see that there was a requirement for competency framework of 4 5 teams newly formed, do not exist in this in the country. We created new teams. And do we have ready content? Answer is no. I know what they have to do, but I had HRMS, which is equipped with AI. And while I said to my stakeholder that give me a few days and I'll come back to you, stakeholder says, why do you need couple of days? It's all there in AI. No, your HRMS only, right? Just key in and you'll get the output. Sit right away. Finish it in 10 minutes. Let's do the next part of the discussion. There's no time. That being talent acquisition, on the other hand, again, truth being told, the candidate is also equipped with a couple of mechanisms to respond to any questions we give with the help of AI, like in a conversation like this, very, very, conveniently. We will not even know that the candidate is looking at a screen which has the response. Now, in all of this, I'll share a few more examples, but in all of this, what is coming handy? Technology is a default, but what is coming handy is your and my experience of finding whether a person is really looking at a ready response being, teleprompted in front of him or her, or is it a genuine response, which is through prompts in between. Okay, please tell me about this. Please tell me about that. AI is today also taking charge of engagement in some form. The regular nudges, which were earlier scheduled by us, now is getting auto scheduled based on their mood. We are able to guess when is an employee not feeling comfortable. So now there are mood triggers in the same engagement survey. If I configure it based on the mood of the employee, the AI is automatically able to push a survey. And if the survey is amber or red, HR has to immediately respond. There is no quarterly review. If there's amber or red, it is popping up on HR's table. Please take care of this. AI is doing this today. Performance management. AI is able to contribute there as well. It will give you a relative as well as subjective response systems. You don't have to now sit and type the feedback. If you just tell the feedback in two lines on an audio, it can give you 2 paragraphs of feedback and you may just have to edit it. So likewise, my part one of the response, today AI has invaded our workspaces to a greater extent. We have to embrace this. And with that, how do we navigate intergenerational elements? Despite the myths that exist, despite the mindset that each one of us have with our own definitions of rights and wrongs, is very, very important. Right? On the other hand, there are a few things that we can make a very, genuine effort to sink in with our culture. Culture, not just in the organizational context, but also something as simple and relevant to each one of us at our homes. Two-way conversations. Can I hear and understand? Can I value what the other person says? Instead of getting into the mood, listen to what I say. You just have to listen and do what I say. People don't want to do that. So it goes back to one of my initial words, which is openness, right? The second one would be uh, uh, one of my research studies focused on gamification. And a lot of times when we say gamification, leaders say, okay, this is about points and badges, right?
Immediately outcome reward based is
Correct.
what is
Correct.
expected. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel both as a researcher as well as a HR practitioner, I feel gamification is a lot more powerful. It's not about it does have badges, it does have points, it does have leaderboards. It does create curiosity. It does create participation. But what is creating participation and curiosity? It is the design. And the design is with a purpose to engage your audience. We are going back to the how aspect. Engage your audience to something more purposive, something more meaningful, something where they feel valued. Now, it is for us as HR practitioners to show that meaning, and that is from a workplace angle. I also said it is also about regular interactions back at home. We as parents, we as siblings, we as children to our parents, right? Again, their design plays a very important role. Why would a kid listen to you? Why would the kid want to engage on something that is very off the shelf for the kid? Kids today have, if you notice, kids today have a lot of clarity of what they want. Yeah. And if the kid wants football, and let's say I want the kid to try cricket, the kid is like, no, I like football, I will play football. It's okay. There is a rhetoricism to what the kid wants, and kid is very clear. So the going back, gamification for me is a engagement modality in all uh, phases of life, and that has to be really embraced well, because then that gives a favorable outcome to whatever is the purpose of an interaction. And last but not the least, I would say, uh, and here is where I feel, the Gen Z lingo really comes handy. But I think all of us equally accept the point of view, and I would like to hear from the audience as well, is values and in value very categorically care for self. I want to leave at 6. I've done your work. Work is over. Can I leave at 6? In fact, why should I ask? The work timing is up to 6. And I've delivered what you want. If you wanted something more, you should have told me before. Is there anything wrong in this? I don't think so.
I don't think so too.
Something called as, yesterday I was chatting with one of the students of a recent college that I paid a visit to. And I said, what did you do today? He says, I gave some time to myself. I focused on body positivity. I said, what
Wow.
did you do? He says, I swimmed, I went for a gym, I went for a walk. I went for a walk with my girlfriend, and she was very appreciative of everything I did. So it was just not physical by nature, but because of the appreciation I got, I felt very nice. I felt very positive, body positivity. Did I ever think of body positivity in my life? Answer is no. But is there merit in what they are talking about? Answer is yes. My answer is yes. Right? So caring for self has become a thing these days. And I personally feel, it's only my opinion. Somewhere, did I do enough on that front? Answer is no. Should I do now? Definitely. I should give it a try.
Yeah.
And if given a chance, I would want one of the Gen Zs to be my coach so that they can ensure I do it. I'll
Yeah.
pause there. Like I said, this question can have multiple answers. I've just shared a few offhand responses. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I really love this, the body positivity example, and I really appreciate, again, I appreciate those leaders or those team members who have clear boundaries for themselves to take care of themselves. And I know that, the result of that would also be back to the system that they are a part of, right? Like if they take care of
Yeah.
this, that also comes back to the system that they belong to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much, Aman. You shared about body positivity, and I'm not sure what Gen Z lingo the audience here is getting reminded of. We would love to hear some interesting comments from you. If there is something like this, like Aman shared, please feel free to share on the chat. We would really love to, see your responses there.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'll be more than happy to know if there are any views, any thought processes around all the three aspects, the myths, the mindsets, and the modern realities.
Yeah. Aman, there is one participant asking about if they can talk. Can we
Yeah,
unmute?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yamini, would you please help?
Yes, sure, Smita. Just give me a minute.
Murali. Hi, Murali. Nice to see you here.
Yeah, I sure. Hi, I can be heard.
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank
Very
you.
warm welcome to this webinar and very nice to see that you joined. I briefly remember meeting you a long time back.
Smita, I am right now just next to my balcony in the 16th floor in L&T South City, from where I can see Meenakshi Mall, behind
So
which
I'm
you
saying a
live.
hi to you from here.
Yeah, behind which you live, I know, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I know our meeting is long overdue, but not. Uh, I would say not hijacking the conversation thing.
Yes.
Fantastic conversation, AJ.
Thank you.
Gen
Uh,
Z, Murali, Gen Z is calling you AJ.
I mean, I wanted to be in the characters that I'm here for today.
Absolutely.
Sure, sure.
My view is very quick. You talked of myth, mindset, other things. I would say, see, I've been in the corporate or industry, or my learning has been so far 40 years in the industry, and I'm still continuing to learn. In fact, my LinkedIn profile says I'm a continuous learner. So 61, which is what I am, and I'm still continuing to learn. I would say it's whatever we discussed today is very valid, but it's all in the mind. It's the mindset, right?
True.
I talked to my son who's 33, a lawyer, a partner in a law firm in Hyderabad. I talked to my daughter who's with IIM Bangalore in the startup incubation cell, who's 24. I've seen two different generations in my own home. You may call it Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, or Gen Alpha, or Gen Beta, or blah, 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 which is going to come further. But I think it all in the mind, I would say there's no need to make so much of hype like the way we are making about AI and all that, AJ and Smita. We need to transition through the phases that we have gone through. Like I have seen a manual typewriter. Then came the word processor on the most a fundamental personal computer. Today, you dictate sitting wherever, and the speech to text conversion comes, and AI, so-called AI, or the technology, which is what I call as a technology maturity, will even change the entire paragraph that you've dictated, but it got typed into something much more presentable to anybody in the world, to any context. So I think this transition, if we realize and we stick to adapting to changing scenarios, organizing to manage or organizing to work with youngsters or even to be born girls and boys is very easy. If I'm able to manage my daughter, we are still living under the same roof. Why can't I do it at the workplace?
Absolutely.
It's as simple as
Absolutely.
that. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. Only thing that we have to keep in mind is the childlike curiosity, A, and B. I'll share one small example of Smita. I was in the passport office today in Lalbagh Road in Bengaluru. My appointment was 3:45 p.m. for my passport renewal. 3:46 I reached. 4:14 p.m. I was out. My passport granted. This is what Gen Z wants. Click of a button, Zamana. I click, the result should be there. I click, the result should be there. I think all the while I took a bus for a change. I took a BMTC bus back all the way, walked down to Shantinagar bus depot, thinking. Then I attended a lawyer's conversation during the bus journey, got off at Tarikere, walked. All the way I was thinking of how generations have changed, how things have changed. And I'm here today with you. I think it's just our ability to adapt to the changing situation
True.
and being with it. And even the youngest of the boys and girls would love to work with us. It's just the mindset, in 2 words, if I have to say. And no need of any big theories, no need of any big books on this. Be adaptable, have childlike curiosity, respect these youngsters or anybody for that matter for what they are. Period.
Yeah.
Thank you.
True.
It's over. Thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah, thank you so much, Murli. You kind of summed up for us, but I would still, Aman, you are our guest for this webinar today. I would like to just ask you this final question before we're already on top of our time. Just to say that, is there just one thing that you would like to leave our listeners with today as we wrap up our session?
I'll probably repeat what I shared initially. Listen to understand with no burden to agree or disagree.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for this, joining us today. And Aman, thank you so much. It was lovely. This was a lovely conversation.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is mine. Good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Yamini, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us. Bye bye.